In 1878, the town of Oviedo, Florida was just hitting its stride. Like the town of Stanford, not too far away, Oviedo was primarily a celery town. It was building its industry. It was growing in population and importance. And it was becoming a town that people knew. Her husband had died, leaving her with 3 young children to take care of by herself. She would have to work long days, getting the celery that her and her family farmed out to the people, and making sure she got home before the sun set. Except for that one night. The one night when the fog fell on Oviedo as it never had before. It was almost a supernatural thickness and darkness, and she had a hard time finding her way. She moved slowly, the horses stepping tentatively, until, because of their inability to see where they were going, the horse misstepped and jerked, breaking the wheel of the cart. She was immediately tossed, landing safely in a ravine nearby, but not so much for her 3 children. They crashed with the carriage. She was knocked out, and when she came to, she could hear their cries and walked the field quickly, trying to find them, until their voices stopped. And oddly enough, their bodies were never found. Every night she returned to that field, looking for them, desperately calling out their names, listening for their weak cries, until she slowly deteriorated and died herself. But that is not where the story ends. Both the mother and the children are still seen on that same stretch of road in Oviedo today. If you travel down Chapman Street, especially on a moonlit night, you'll find that a weird fog will roll in. A fog so thick you can't even see where you're going. And you can't see the field, now overgrown, right next to you on the road. But you'll hear the cries. You'll hear the cries of 3 little children calling out for their mother. You'll hear a desperate woman searching in vain for the kids that she'll never find. On some nights. On other nights, you can be on that same stretch of road, hoping that your car doesn't break down, and you'll hear giggling from the side of the road. You'll hear kids yelling back and forth to each other, as if playing some kind of game. But you won't see them. Maybe you'll see little balls of light known as ghost lights. So it all depends. Which night are you going to see them? Will you hear the cries of the kids, or find yourself face to face with a game of ghostly hide and seek? I'm Christopher Balzano.
I'm Balzano.
And welcome to Tripping on Legends.
Yeah.
What do you think of that story?
Interesting.
Yeah?
But I saw it, like, at the beginning while you were reading it, and it, like, bugged me the entire time. You used the wrong form of it's right here. That is possession. That means it is.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
or not. Possession is the it's without an apostrophe, but it's is in the.
Yes, I did.
abbreviation,
I'm
it
sorry.
is. Didn't we just watch something about that?
We watched an entire thing.
Yeah.
I don't even know right now, actually, if people can hear us or see us. It seems to be. It looks like we've got some people. If someone can rattle off in the chat room. We are live right now on Tripping on Legends. We're live on Facebook Live at facebook.com/Tripping on Legends. And we are live on Instagram television, IGTV at...
Spooky Tripping.
Spooky Tripping. Excellent. You can also get in contact with us if you want to speak to us or follow what we're doing on Twitter at Spooky Balzano. We are here every Tuesday. Some sound like every night sometimes. Every Tuesday night at 8:30.
So
broadcasting on all of our platforms live, including, because we have the feed working tonight, Midnight FM.
Where it's always midnight.
I said that earlier today as a joke, and just in conversation, and she, boom, nailed out where it's always midnight, and she didn't even look up from her hummus as she was doing it. She literally went where it's always midnight.
I was eating pretzels.
And if you're liking the show and you're participating, please feel free to get the podcast itself on iTunes, on Google Play, on everywhere but Stitcher. And if you have already subscribed to us at Tripping on Legends, leave a review. Tell us what you think of us. Tell us what you think of Ella. No, it's not on Spotify. Isn't that... Yeah, that's what I said. Did I say...
Stitcher.
No, we are on Stitcher. We're not on Spotify. Exactly, what's Stitcher? You can tell how old someone is by what they follow. But we're working for the first time really to get ourselves on Spotify because that's the way the kids are finding us. And it's also at Spooky Balzano on our TikTok. I posted...
a whole video, guys.
My first TikTok.
All on his own.
All on my own. It took me... Well, to actually post it took me, like, not very long. But to make the video took me a while because with the help of Black Betty and this jury-rigged work computer, I'm finding it hard to get things done. But I'm actually working things on my phone. So if you want to give us plenty of money...
Yes.
So that we can work.
Give us money, a lot of money.
Not even for a reason, just give us a lot of money. Actually, also, if you are following us, and I'm going to put it up on Facebook.com/Tripping on Legends, Ella is working to get her way to Orlando, and so I'm actually putting up your fundraiser as well. So
really?
I would rather you contribute to her getting to Orlando with her choir.
Theater.
Yeah, that too. Her theater. Sorry, bad dad.
Wow. Come on now.
What do you think of that story? What are your thoughts other than my grammar?
I liked it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like every other story.
What do you mean?
Like, woman, something happens to someone in her life, and that leaves her all alone with her children, and then her children go missing, and she's crying for them. And then that's what they hear on the lonesome road.
On the lonesome road. The funny thing is that I've now written about this twice. I've written 2 different books. Haunted Florida Love Stories, which I usually have a copy of. Oviedo Lights.
Oh.
And I've also written...
Oviedo.
Yeah. And I've also written about it in the new book, which I just finished, The Haunted Ocala National Forest. Because this is probably the most famous legend trip in Florida, right? This is one of those legend trips that people have been going out and exploring for 80 years, at least.
Oh.
And here's a weird thing. When I wrote both of those books, I was told it was Snow Hill Road, which is where the ghost lights actually are, right? The famous ghost lights, the Oviedo lights, the ones that were, written about in the newspapers, explored by people looking for cheap entertainment, for a reason to get their girlfriends in their backseats of their cars. They were telling this and going out there and seeing these little balls of light dancing. And one of the classic reasons for what those little balls of light are these children who are missing. Right, these children who flipped over in a cart. The mom, in some versions of the story, the mom dies. In other versions of the story, the kids Bodies are found. There's actually said to be, the legend says that they're said to be buried in Geneva nearby. But now I've found it's the same exact story exists on 3 different roads, all in Oviedo.
Wow.
So it's obviously a case of things going back and forth, things borrowing from each other. So Chapman Road, and they're known as the Ghost Children of Chapman Road, or I've also heard them referred to as the Celery Children of Chapman Road. When I die and become a ghost, don't call me.
I'm gonna call you.
Don't call me the celery ghost, the celery
I'm gonna call
man.
you the coffee ghost.
But this is a real thing. This is something that's still happening. People are still going out to that road on Chapman Road, and sometimes because it's at the intersection of Chapman and Anderson, it's sometimes said to be on Anders Road, which is nearby. Now, these are 5 miles apart, right? Oviedo, which is when you're in that area, 5 miles is an eternity, right? Because it is really in the middle of nowhere. This story starts with me saying that the town blew up. The town's not that big now, right? It's right outside Orlando. People traveling on that road have a habit of their radios just go crazy. And when I say their radios go crazy, I'm not talking about they go on and off. I'm talking about they scan through.
Oh,
right?
Like a ghost box.
Like a ghost box, right? So you can all you want, you can say, oh, staticky. If you're in Florida, and I don't know if other people experience this, if you live in Florida, if you want to listen to a radio station, it depends on where you are and what time of day it is. Because there are some stations you can get at 6 o'clock in the morning when you're on your way to work that you can't get at 3 o'clock when you come home. Guess what color that woman in the field is sometimes wearing?
White.
Yes.
Whoa.
People driving on that road, their car radios are going crazy, scanning through you're listening to country music because you're in Florida, and all of a sudden it turns to rock and roll, right, or whatever.
Welcome to the jungle, and you see this woman in front of you.
A woman in white walking in that field, like I said, which is now overgrown. Don't write on that. Cars have their people
Cars have their people.
People have their cars malfunction. Like the heat goes crazy, the car stalls right at the place where the kids were said to die, or where the carriage was said to go off the road. I think that story is totally ridiculous. Like, why are they traveling at night
on this
weird stretch of road? Like, why does it, what does them not being able to see have to do with the car driving? But a ghostly mist does fall over that part, and only that part of Chapman Road. There are different versions of the story. So one of the versions of the story says that it's not this nice story of a mom taking her kids home and she gets into an accident, but rather orphans. Right? So orphans in the area were basically sold into slavery and forced to work the celery fields.
Nice.
And all the time, job habit, or hazard of the job, people would die. Like these little kids would die in the field, and they would just kind of dig a hole and bury them where they were. They wouldn't even pay to have them properly buried because they were orphans. Who cared, right? And so it's the ghosts of these kids in death being able to play the way they couldn't play in life. And then another version of the story says that they're actual slaves. Like, that this was, which I haven't been able to find any reference in Oviedo of them using slave labor, but, it's Florida, so there's a lot of cases of that. But these are actual slaves that died in the field, the children of slaves, who were also slaves, and it's them. So, it's one of those stories. I thought I would start out with it tonight, because it's episode 103.
Ooh.
Are you going to make it through? Ella is suffering from 4-day vacation, sleep deprivation. She hasn't been to bed at a normal time in probably pretty close to a month. So she's yawning through this. Just make sure you yawn off mic, and off camera.
Maybe I'm right in the mic.
That's what it sounds like. But it is all about the ghostly hide and seek, right? These stories of ghost children, which tend to amaze us. Now, it's interesting you would say it was cliche, but I think we are drawn or repelled, which means we're ultimately then drawn, to stories about ghost children, right? Like, if the main character of a ghostly legend is a kid, it's almost impossible to be neutral about it.
Robert.
You're either like Robert, right? Although Robert's a doll.
Well, the main character is a boy. Little boy.
Yeah, originally.
And I get the doll, like how the doll might be the main character, but like the boy is the one who's being influenced, and the boy is the one who, you know.
Interesting. So do you think when Eugene, right, is younger, that's a creepier story?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, no, actually.
Because that is
when he's older, it doesn't happen.
That
when
is
he's
the
older, too.
Robert did it.
That's the same thing that happens when he's older, right? I think.
Yeah, I think it's personally, I think it's creepier as an adult because it's a dude walking around with a doll.
Because like when you were younger.
And like.
When you're younger.
Yiggity with his wife with the doll watching and like those.
Yiggity?
Yeah.
Yiggity?
Yeah, I made my own one up. I know, because I'm like, all right, I need to be a little bit, at least PG-13 with my daughter here. Can't swear as much as I swore last week.
Wow, Dad.
So it is this kind of creepiness to it, but there's also a creepiness to a little kid, right? Having conversations on his own in two different voices, as some of the legends say, as some of the stories say, and you're like, it's impacting a kid. I think another thing is when we hear a ghost story, not necessarily a ghostly legend, but when we hear a ghost story and a kid's involved, we almost believe it more. Why do you think? This is I haven't prepped you for this show at all. As a matter of fact, I took responsibilities away from you on this show because you were originally going to tell the opening story.
Yeah, he was like, when we were driving to his house, he was like, you know what? Actually, you're not going to read the opening story.
Had you prepped one?
I was.
Yeah, you were going to like an hour before.
No, while I was waiting for you to pick me up, I was looking at stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
so
it was.
Okay, I'm with you. So a lot of this I'm just going to spot like pop questions on you.
Great.
All right, and also you can feel free to pop questions to me if you want to try to stump me. All right, so from a ghost perspective, and I would love to hear people's opinions in the audience as well. Why are ghost children more likely? Like, why does it seem that it makes more sense when we hear that a ghost is a kid?
Because I think we talked about...
Wow, you have a definite opinion.
Before.
You didn't even hesitate. You didn't even like, I'm going to contemplate this for a second. You were like, let me pontificate about the children.
Because we've talked about this before.
Okay, go ahead.
You're
wrong. Go ahead.
What do you mean?
I'm just kidding, go.
We've talked about how, the more energy, the stronger the spirit, and usually, children have a lot more energy than, say, a widow. So it'd be more likely for a child to show up.
Because kids just have more energy to begin with, like flying around, all, ADHDing out. ADHDing out.
Okay,
but I mean, that's part of it. Like, there's just a natural energy to it. Also, we've talked about, I don't know if you remember this, kids not following rules, right? And I think it's a lot harder to please a kid, right? Like, a kid isn't looking for peace, right? An adult soul might have some understanding, some comprehension of why they, what's going on, and pass on, right? Except for kids, might be totally confused with that. And stranger danger, they might not trust anyone who comes along and kind of sends them. When it comes to the other side of it, kids are more likely to perceive ghosts as well. So it's like a little bit of a give and take there. And maybe that has something to do with why there are so many kid ones, that there's that part of us that's a kid that perceives things that adults don't. What is the baby ghost stories that make sense to us, like these lives that were murdered before they could really live. Yeah, that's actually, yeah, I didn't think of that. That is really a kid ghost story, you know? Keep talking because I've got to really
Guys, why should you never look at rich? Why should you never look at rich? What is the girlfriend's favorite
Okay, we
word?
can stop now. I was trying to think. When we did Tripping on Legends, I think this happened a lot. When we did Tripping on Legends in Korean. Was there kids involved in that? For some reason, I got the feeling, maybe it was because of the school bell or whatever it was, that there were somehow kids involved in that one.
I think there was. I think there might have been with the school bell. Yeah, I think so.
So the original reason why I wanted to do this show tonight was that I went back to Oak Ridge Cemetery. And in prepping for that legend trip, which I'll actually get into some of what happened, and you're going to be like, hey, Chris, what happened when you went to Oak Ridge this weekend?
Chris.
No, not yet.
Oh.
When the time comes,
Sorry.
I'll go like this. Or I'll go like this.
Okay.
And when I do this, you ask. Okay? Sounds good?
Sounds good.
And in doing that, I thought that I had never done an episode on the Richardson kids.
Yeah, you told me you were like, have I heard that episode on the Richardsons?
Okay, I didn't quite sound like that. Can you say clearly what that was so that people can hear? Because I was about to say the same thing in you.
Dad asked me like a week ago, he was like, have I ever done an episode on the Richardsons? No, we visited.
And you said no,
we
right?
We visited them, but we didn't
and
do an episode.
And the interesting thing was, I looked and I found out we had episode 60, which is called Cursed Kids in Arcadia. We were prepping for our trip to Coker Cemetery, and so I brought in the Richardson kids as a tie-in. So we have talked about it, but if you haven't, right? Stanley always says, imagine that everyone's first comic is everyone's comic. Every comic you write is someone's first comic.
I thought you said Stanley.
So I thought I Stan
like
Lee.
Stanley from The Office.
So why don't you tell me what you remember about the case of the Richardsons?
Okay, so
Arcadia, Florida, Oak Ridge Cemetery.
there was these 7 children.
Mm-hmm.
7 children.
I've got my notes right here that I use for when I do library events. So I'm checking your information as you go. Go ahead.
So there are 7 black kids in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And their names, I remember some of their names was like Betty, Diane, James.
Betty, Diane, James. Keep going.
Alice, Susie.
Do you want me to help you out?
Yeah.
Did you say Diane? Okay. Betty,
Alice.
who was 8. Alice, who was 7. Susie, who was 6. Doreen, who was 5. Vanessa, who was 4. James Jr., who was 2. And Diane, who was 3.
So they were all relatively young. And,
All between the ages of 8 and 2.
they came home from school one day, right?
Yep.
And they were eating something, but then they like all of them started choking without the same time. No. They started choking. I don't know.
So sometime in the morning of October 25th, all 7 kids found their way to the hospital.
Yeah, because they were poisoned, and they all died different times. I know one died in the morning.
I think the reason why I have Diane set apart is that they all ended up dying on October 25th, except for Diane, I think, who made it to the next day. That's why I think I have her name
And then there are so many that a lot of people think their dad died. I think their dad was
for a crime he didn't commit.
Because, I think her name was like Bessie or something.
Bessie Reese, excellent.
And
Did you read that on the card, or do you remember that?
No, I just know
I love your memory.
because her name was Betty, and it was like something else that was like Betty.
Bessie.
Yeah.
Bessie Reese.
No, one of the kids was named Bessie. Or Betty, rather. Bessie was like their caretaker, and a lot of people thought that Bessie did it.
So caretaker's kind of
and
a misnomer, if you will.
because
She was just their babysitter. She wasn't their caretaker. She was their babysitter.
she was like the one who did it. Basically, she confessed. Didn't she confess to it?
She was a loon.
She was psychotic.
Okay, she was on parole for having killed her husband, also via poisoning.
How?
She confessed to the crime.
On her deathbed, right?
Well, she confessed to the crime at the time. And the police, thinking that she was just disturbed, didn't take her confession seriously. And so they ended up convicting James. And then, years later, on her deathbed, she reconfessed to it. And so they started looking into it until finally it led to his exoneration in 1980. But that doesn't stop that kind of black mark on Florida history, especially Arcadia. I've been able to speak with several people. It seems every time I go out there to Oak Ridge, I find someone who is talking about it or wants to talk to me about it, and it's still something that looms over that city. It looms over them as this thing that went on. So it's still something that's referred to in the town, pointed to when racial tensions are kind of rising in other places. People fall back on this case. So especially in the last couple of years, with all the things that have been going on, people have kind of brought it back up again. These 7 kids, he was out of Florida. From everything I can tell, he's still alive in the I don't know what happened to Mom, but these 7 kids are buried. How would you describe where they're buried in Oak Ridge Cemetery, having gone there yourself?
Give me a second.
She's stretching for this.
Be quiet.
Make yourself comfortable. Feel free.
So it's from what I remember, it was like a black and white cemetery, but there was like separated sides,
Yeah.
and the white
It's-
side was like pristine. The tombstones were cleaned. There was like freshly mowed grass, like lower parts that didn't have graves. I hope so. I can't remember exactly, but like it was like freshly mowed. It looked nice. It looked good. Like it looked clean. But the one that had like the black people, it was unkept. There was a lot of like overgrowth on some of the tombstones.
So I think that that's a little bit of an exaggeration overall for that part of the cemetery. Where the Richardsons are buried seems to be less tended than the rest of that cemetery. So I want to make it seem as if the entire... So when you go there, I mean, it is great. When you go there, I really noticed this. The first time I ever went, we didn't go... We explored the entire cemetery. We didn't touch the Richardson story at all, right? Natalie was very much not into doing legend trips involving kids, and so we didn't touch this story at all. But we did notice that it was segregated. You can't not notice it. What I really noticed this time, because I was walking it in the dark for the first time, there's a ravine that really cuts it off, right? So it's literally like when you're walking, the road ends, like the road cuts through, and then it's a ravine, and on one side of the ravine is the African American side, and the other side of the ravine is the white side. And it is overall more well kept. But even within that part of the cemetery, the Richardsons seem to be in a forgotten part. right? Like, they are way in the back of the cemetery, right? Remember, we had trouble, we couldn't even find them that day, right? We were having
You're
trouble
looking
finding them.
everywhere.
We were looking everywhere. They are way in the back of the cemetery, way in the corner and the way in the back. They are steps from that ravine that I was talking about. They are in a lot of ways forgotten, but not by the community. Because if you remember when we went out there,
There was a girl.
there was a girl. She came out
She
and
was
we
coming
talked
to
for
pay
like.
respects to
Actually, she kind of ruined our legend trip. Sorry if you're following us now, which I'm sure she's not. But she kind of screwed up our. It was like, dude, get away. We're doing ghostly shit.
Yeah, she was
You know what I'm
talking while we
saying?
were trying to
But
find
she was
things.
talking about the legacy. Problem is, however far away they are, these kids are anything but quiet. Can you remember some of the things that the kids like to do?
They played hide and seek. That's what I remember. And
Mhm.
then they also like to play with the toys. Like if you brought them toys, they would play with them.
So, the ghosts seem to all be there. And they seem to be, even in death, playing with each other. Which sounds kind of dirty, but you know what I mean. Primarily in the form of ghost lights. So people in that part of the cemetery, especially at dusk and dawn, see these balls of light that are different colors. And rather than just being like these floating balls and maybe they go up to the sky, they seem to be running in and out of each other. They seem to be playing leapfrog, like one here and then another one goes over it. They seem to be playing tag, like one ball of light seems to be chasing the other ones. This has been a persistent legend there almost since their burial, right? Because I can find reports of this in the 80s and the 90s, and then of course in modern times. But then there are these two other urban legends that kind of go with it, that are the legend trip part, which is if you bring toys and you place them in that part of the cemetery, and if you follow social media, you've seen some of the pictures that we've posted. We'll post even more when we do this, so you can kind of see how it is laid out. Their graves are marked off from everyone else, right? Like there's this little stone. It's probably 2 inches high, but it's clear that it's a barrier between them and the rest of the cemetery.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And if you leave toys, especially on that wall, they'll move, they'll disappear, right?
Peanut.
Like what?
Like Peanut. Which you took
Okay, we'll talk about Peanut in a minute.
I'm so upset. You should have asked me.
I did.
No, you didn't.
I did. I kind of asked, and it's almost its own little world, because if you go inside of that little area and you close your eyes and you count to 10, you will feel someone touch you on the back and say, ready or not, here I come. The kids will actually play hide and seek with you. They've been known to push or touch you because there's just enough light in the cemetery. They're caught sneaking behind graves nearby, or people hear giggling, or they hear this kind of like running through the leaves and things like that in the overgrowth. It is right near the woods, right? It's like the last grave before the woods, and people have heard like rustling in the woods right after they say that.
Did you do like the hand thing? Have you done it? I haven't noticed.
What'd you say?
Like the hand thing or whatever you like.
Oh, I haven't. What were you supposed to say then when I did
I
that?
don't even remember. I
Oh,
was
okay.
at the Richardsons.
Tell me about when you went to the Richardsons. I want to hear about your experience. What you felt? Did you feel anything we were there? Anything like that? And I totally agree. Laura in the chat says that Arcadia is a scary place, even when it doesn't come to ghouls. And yet, I would agree. And Arcadia is a complex town in that they have a great respect for their history, both the good times and the bad. And it's when I'm looking for information on towns surrounding Arcadia, I look to the Arcadia archives to find information because everything is very well kept. And yet, it also has this as beautiful, historic. We went through horrible restaurant. What was that restaurant called?
Skillets.
Skillets, not the chain Skillets, but this was just a horrible restaurant. So I wouldn't go there to eat. Because then did we get thrown out of the other place? Remember we went into the other place? We were trying to get in, and they closed on us or something.
Yeah.
Right? Didn't we?
Yeah.
Right?
And they closed on us.
So I wouldn't go there, but they've got this this beautiful historic downtown section. Excuse me. I'm pretty sure that's where your mom got her speeding ticket in Florida.
Wow.
Driving through Arcadia, but coming back from Disney.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You weren't born.
No, you guys have told me the story about a billion times.
As we tend to do. And yet there is this weirdness to it too. And that weirdness also extends to the paranormal part. Tell us about the Richardsons. Like when you went there, what you felt. While I drink my tea and get rid of this cough. I love when you pull the mic up next to you. It's like, Ella's going to get serious. Go ahead. Go ahead, little sister.
I don't remember.
It was a year ago.
Okay.
You have no memory of when we went there?
I do.
Or you just don't remember how you felt?
I remember we parked in an illegal parking spot. Remember, we were like behind the gate or something. And
No, we were fine. We were in the road.
No, it was behind. No, we weren't.
In a way.
We were behind the gate. We weren't even supposed to be there. But
It's a dusk to dawn.
Nothing happened. It was really because of that one
Dawn to
lady.
dusk.
It was
Yeah, so she kind of interrupted it. We had a whole thing planned. We were going to do.
Thing we were doing.
We ended up, going to the Mary statue and doing the RAFs as well, but the kid part kind of got messed up. I'd always wanted to go there at night. My friend Richie Ferreira asked me to take him there so he could do an investigation and also so that he could kind of have the lay of the land. And he was shooting some stuff for his YouTube. When his YouTube stuff comes up, we'll also post it on Tripping on Legends because Richie is an investigator through and through. Right? He went there on Saturday night with tons of fun equipment, if you are into that kind of thing. And I know you are into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? Some of the things he brought was he brought this teddy bear, and the teddy bear I think sends out low pulses of energy. And Richie, if you're in the chat room, you can maybe, or even if you want to call at
813-418-6822.
Feel free to call in if you want to explain kind of what this bear does. But one of the things, it records and it asks questions, right? So in the video that I'll link to, it's really creepy because you hear this little bear going, "Hey, what's your name?" And he uses this in a lot of investigations, and I was like, you definitely have to bring it to Arcadia because I want to hear, like, who's going to respond to a teddy bear more than little kids?
Right. If I were a little kid ghost and I saw a teddy bear talking to me, I'll be like, hey.
Yeah, well. Although, wouldn't that also kind of be freaky? If you were a little kid, right, and you didn't know what was going on in the modern world, and all of a sudden a little teddy bear was like, "Tell me your name." I would be a little freaked out about that too.
They freak out.
He also brought cameras, did a lot of recording, brought a ghost box, which I know you're a big fan of the ghost box, having watched BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Hey, dude, what's up with the Richardsons?
I'm not sure if that's how you were supposed
What
to.
What happened when you were with the Richardsons?
I'm glad you asked. All right, I'm gonna give you.
I want it back. Give me your hand.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of what happened when we went there on Saturday because I think a lot of it has to do with what a legend trip is, and it kind of goes with the theme for tonight because what we're going to be talking about is like, is it morally right to legend trip, especially little kids? And I think it's accentuated because of little kids. Is it okay to legend trip and try to get kids to respond, ghost kids to respond, by playing games with them? Is there something, I loved the idea. I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it when we were there. I didn't think it was appropriate because there were other people watching. I did it on Saturday night, and I felt completely okay with it. And then as I'm getting ready to kind of go over some of the stuff that we got while I was there, I was wondering, like, am I a jerk? Am I a douche for doing this? Is there something, there was just something uneasy about it. And, well, I'll get to that. We got there probably a half hour later than we should have.
That's fun.
And it was really nerve-wracking because it is a close at 7 kind of cemetery, but we got there at like 6:15. And there were a lot of cops in the area. Like right on the road that you take to get there, we saw 3 cop cars, and I was like, I think they know what we're doing or something. Like, I don't know, I just got kind of a weird feeling. I'm like, maybe they're followers of the show.
Hey, Triple Legends, we're your biggest fan!
One of the things I did, I sent you a picture from the cemetery. And I'm sorry, but we don't do Facebook Lives from cemeteries.
Yes, we did.
Nope, when?
We did it. Oh, never mind. We did it behind the gate.
Right, we went exactly behind the gate to do it.
The illegal gate. That we were supposed to be behind.
It's not an illegal gate. It's open and closed. You can open and go through. You can go through it. The Union Jack was flying. Did you get why
I don't know
said
what that is, but
so way to follow your own stuff.
I know.
We one of the legends in there. There are 21 RAF pilots.
I know what the rave is.
Who are buried there. I'm telling people who don't know. As well as their trainer, who's an American, I believe, who are buried there and have a memorial. So they trained here, they died in accidents and friendly fire and things like that, and they're buried and there's a memorial, and there's this ghostly activity that has to do with that. You can go all the way back. Talk about going to our archives. You can go all the way back to episode, I think, 3 and 4, if you want to listen to kind of some of this stuff in more detail. And the evidence that we got. We got crazy, crazy voices on tape there. But one of the legends that's attached to this is in the middle, there's a giant flagpole that flies the Union Jack. For those of you who don't know, because I actually found there were people who were like, what? The Union Jack is the UK flag, right? It's like the nickname. You know how like what do they call ours? Old Glory?
That's so weird. Is that the one with like the red?
Yeah.
Like and like the white?
Yeah.
Or is it white or is it blue?
It's blue, I think, is the main part, and white is us, and there's like a little red part, like a part set off. Feel free to look that up while we're doing this. And it disappears. The flag itself, the Union Jack, actually disappears. But the last time we went, there.
Oh, that's what I thought.
The last time we went, it wasn't even flying at all. So I made sure to get like, okay, and I went out with Deanna Mulhern. With Richie and his cameraman, and I made sure, I'm like, notice, it's there. Notice the Union Jack. See, it's right there. It's right there. It never disappeared on us.
It never?
It never did. So the Union Jack was there the whole time. That's why I sent you the picture. And she was like, I don't know what this is.
You just sent me a random picture.
This isn't a TikTok video. I have no idea what's going on with this picture. We got to the cemetery itself. And some of this might be out of order. And by that time, it was really dark. Pretty much, you didn't need a light. You needed a light for some small things. But you could pretty much see. Like, unless you were looking to read something, which we did, you didn't need a flashlight at all. It was that bright out. But it was still dark. Like, so you couldn't see things behind the headstones. Although I will say, I've been to that cemetery in the day. I've been to that cemetery now in the day with kids. I've been to that cemetery at night. I do not get a negative feeling in that cemetery at all. None of the ghosts that are there, or none of the presence that are there, none of the energy that's there, feels bad, right? So Richie was a little bit spooked out. He's like, wow, I'm getting kind of a creepy feeling. Both Deanna and I had none of that. Like, this is a really peaceful place.
Because Richie's investigating.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. He's tuned into a different frequency, you know what I'm saying, because of his approach. But we were being tracked pretty much the whole time.
Tracked?
Yeah. Like, it's funny because they were doing something at the RAFs, and I'm like, there's someone watching us right over there, you know?
By like
and
a
I was
person
watching.
or
Yeah. Well, no, not a live person. I just kept seeing this kind of like, I'm going to say a shadow, but it was quick movement that kept going behind a tree. And then I would look over there, and then I would kind of be focused on them again, and I would see it out of the corner of my eye as if it was, and then I'd look back over. So there were a few times that I just like ignored whatever they were doing, and I went to find out what was going on with that. So there's definitely a lot of things going on there.
It's cool. Sweet.
So overall, ghost box stuff. At one point, very clearly, it said one of the names of the children.
Which one?
I can't remember which one it said.
Wow.
But Richie asked, "How did you die?" And it clear as day said poison.
Wow.
Poison. So if you know the ghost box, the odds of it having a direct response like that's not hello.
Like apple fritter.
You know what I'm saying? Or apple fritter. Or
spaghetti.
something, something that is but to have it like happen almost instantaneously, like from the question, is pretty crazy.
You should show me later.
We had Deanna read Goodnight Moon. Do you remember Goodnight Moon? You don't.
I don't know.
You don't remember? You know what the weird thing is? Okay, a little bit of a sidetrack. I have no memory of reading to you as a kid.
Yeah, me neither, man. I remember I used to sing myself to sleep.
No, it's not that we didn't. It was just like you were reading it by like age 6 months. And so it was like, I remember reading it, I remember singing with you.
Age 6 months?
Yes. But I have such vivid memories of reading with Devin. But I have very few like solid memories of reading with you. I know I did. You know what I'm saying? Like we had all those princess books. We were reading to you. I know like you're not a Disney princess fan now, but you were back then. But it's this thing that bonds, that connects. Like it's almost, if you sit down, and I find this still with the 12, 13-year-olds that I work with, if you sit down and open up a book and start reading out loud, people stop and they pay attention to what you're doing.
Do you remember the thing that, I don't know if Mom ever sent you it, but we were on the bus from Ichiban to the hotel.
I don't know what that means.
Augustine trip.
Yes, I have that
And
clip.
I was reading my friend ghost stories underneath the blanket, and I didn't even realize the entire bus was silent because everyone was listening to me reading the ghost stories.
Yeah, and of course, if it's a good ghost story, that's even better, right? Yes, that's actually, you can find that on our website. I've actually posted that.
Really? That's
not only on
embarrassing.
mine, but actually also on Tripping on
That's
Legends.
embarrassing.
That was years ago.
That's such a main character moment.
It really is. I don't know what that means. What a great way to try to draw kids in. We did it at Coker, and I remember very clearly at Coker feeling as if there was energy like coming in. There were all these shadows that were coming in. We even got some of them on camera, evidence, whatever. We decided we would read to the kids. So Deanna read a much shorter book this time, rather than that 30-minute long.
What even is Goodbye Moon?
Good. I'll have you read that later. Okay. But it's a classic kids book.
You should have read
which I read to you dozens of times, if not hundreds of times.
By Dr. Seuss or whatever it's called.
Didn't want to mix my legends. It was funny though because I've read it so many times. Not only did I know all the words that were coming, but I couldn't prevent myself. So I'm mouthing them as I'm filming it. I couldn't prevent myself from saying the word hush when it got to that part, which is what I did to both of my kids, both of them, as they were growing up.
Both of them.
I still have to check the tapes to see if there's anything, but I will tell you, during that time, I emptied out. Yeah, I emptied out the audio recorder before we went because it was all that stuff from when we had gone out. I deleted all of that, and yet it instantly was full. When she literally finished the story, and the tape recorder went off. It was really, really creepy. That was creepy, like one of those moments.
At this moment, our audio recorder picks up.
The other thing that was really telling was that Richie brought a Kinect, and he had a whole setup attached
What
to
is
it as
that?
well. I'm glad you asked. So a Kinect is what you what you attach to an Xbox. I think it's the Xbox or it's the PS3. It's one of the gaming systems, and it's what reads you. We have one right over there. It's what reads you in the room, right, and allows you to interact.
I remember that one, like you used to like play it with the. I
Right,
remember.
you get what I'm saying?
I was so bomb at that game.
I'm not 100% sold on this technology, but paranormal investigators use it because if you point it into an empty room where there isn't anybody and you shouldn't be connecting with anybody, you shouldn't be able to sweep and be able to form a human out of thin air. If a human appears, and it appears just as like a stick figure with these with balls at like the joints. There it was. It was on the camera, right? So right there at the grave, right there at the grave. It kind of looked weird, like it kind of, but I'm not. Once again, not. Kind of, I got out of investigating before that became popular, so I don't really know what to make of the way it looked on the camera. But it was kind of almost like insect-like it was going like this and kind of had weird movements to it.
You keep talking.
Okay, I will. And I found that interesting, and I found she's killing a bug. I found that interesting in that, like, oh, there's something. But like I said, I'm not sold on the technology itself, so I'm not really sure. I know a lot of people, like, they treat it, if something happens on that Kinect, it's as good as seeing a full-bodied apparition in their world. I get it. I'm not convinced 100%. However, and there was at one point where it was joined by another one. So there were two of them in this area.
Yeah.
I don't even think I told you this part yet.
Probably not.
We're there in the cemetery. I'm about to play hide and seek. And whoop, the dude appears, and Richie and the cameraman get very excited, and they're like, there he is. And he's just facing us. Like, so you're watching the camera, he's just facing us. And I say, do you want to have Miss Deanna read to you again? And it literally stopped its movement and ran off the camera in the direction towards Deanna.
Oh, okay. That's fun.
Yeah.
He's like, read
it was
again
one of
now.
those in every legend trip. There's a moment that is profound. To see something react in that way, and Richie got a lot of good evidence. He's been posting it. He let me see some of it. He's gonna make a YouTube video that we'll put out. But for me, that was the moment, because that's not the way it had been moving previous to it, and that's not the way it moved after that. But at that one moment, that little stick figure reacted to what I said by running over, wanting her to read again.
Wow. The power of Kinects.
The power of Kinects connects us all. So it to some degree confirmed it. We both played hide and seek with the kids. Richie tried it first. I tried it. I spent a lot of time going north because they're said to like be playing. They said to travel north to another location known as Goat Hill, which is a little bit ways away, like a mile away. Just walking that stretch of the cemetery towards the gate that we're not supposed to go in, according to Ella. I didn't feel anything, but I thought it was like, and then we got another piece, which I have put up there. So if you haven't checked out Spooky Tripping, if you haven't checked out on Instagram, if you hadn't checked out trippingonlegends.com Facebook.com/trippingonlegends, a video much like I got in the Key West Lighthouse of 1.6 seconds of video. For reasons I can't explain, as Deanna starts to read to the story, Goodnight Moon, she calls out each of the kids' names, right? And she calls them in descending order.
So that would be, this is not in descending order.
That's in descending order. From this way down is descending order.
Descending order would be Betty, Alice.
Good. That's all that concerns us right now are those two names.
Susie,
So this is one of those moments. Once again,
Doreen.
if you don't believe in the paranormal, if you don't think that ghosts are real, this is going to be nothing to you. Or if you're hardcore science, this is going to be nothing to you. Deanna starts out by doing each of the names of the kids. So she starts with Betty, and then she says Betty, Alice, Susie, right? Betty, Alice, Susie.
Those are the three oldest.
Right, the three oldest, descending order. My camera, now I'm taking kind of establishing shots before she starts to read. My camera, I'm just clicking away. It switches over to video for 1.6 seconds. And in that 1.6 seconds, I captured Deanna saying, "Be Alice. Be Alice. Be Alice." Right? Not Betty Alice. Not T Alice. Be Alice. A clear, the B from Betty. And now if you're not a linguistic, Alice? No. Be Alice. Almost like she caught, and at 1.6 seconds is not enough to get Betty Alice, right? Because there's no there's no I think, is that a plosive? No, it's not a plosive. I can't remember what that's called. It's Be Alice. And then camera again. And I have the picture before, and I've got a picture after, and then in the middle, 1.6 seconds of a video.
Alice really wants you to be her.
Well, I mean, be Alice. It's like I said in the Key West Lighthouse, we got the spirits from the video that was playing. I have no idea what it means, but I know that I feel that it means we need to go back. We need to go back again at night and communicate. And if we go, Ella, I'm sure, is going to want to get her stuffed animals back, because without her knowing and without her permission, we brought a stuffed animal. One of her.
You brought like 4 of them.
Yeah, stuffed animals. 7 stuffed animals for the 7 children that are buried there, to leave them just a little something.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You want to go off on that for a little bit?
Yeah. 1, he took my Curious George. 2, he took an Easter or a birthday.
What do you care about Curious George? According to you, I've never read a book to you, so.
Well, I read books myself. Then he took my mini toy, which I'm sure Nana's not happy about because she bought that for me. And then the one I'm most enraged about is the one that you took named Peanut, which is a purple elephant.
Is that the purple elephant's name?
Yes, his name was Peanut, and I got him from, I think it was from Universal. I got him from Universal, and it was really special to me, and then you took him away from me. So what else did you bring?
My theory was, I knew that those, first of all, I wanted to get rid of some of the stuffed animals.
Of course you did.
But I also thought that those were charged. Those were charged with memories, with emotions.
That's why you take
and
them.
They were to some degree cast aside, right?
Peanut wasn't.
Every stuffed animal that I took was not in stuffed animal arena proper, which is the corner of the room where Ella keeps all of her stuffed animals and refuses to get rid of them, right? Because we automatically connect to those things, right? They are. And so I was like, wow, these things are discarded. I hadn't seen her play or talk about or do anything with Peanut for 2 years. He's been in the closet.
I support him.
I supported him. He can come out of the closet. But I thought, what a great way to pass on that positivity that you feel about them, and maybe have them kind of connect to them. She was not impressed. And as we were on our way there, Deanna asked a really interesting question, which I've yet to come up with an answer for. So I will throw this out to you guys for you to say what you think about this, how you feel about this. But I'm not a fan. I'm not overly a fan, even though I'm currently working on a book called Whistle Past the Cemetery. I'm not a fan of cemetery ghosts. Cemetery ghostly legends, yes. Cemetery ghosts, there's an aspect of it that's like, well, why the hell would a ghost haunt a cemetery?
That's so lame.
Right? Like, why would they? Now, ghostly legends, which can explain, or the backstory to explain why there might be ghosts there, usually fall into burial site has been disrupted, or I love the one in Wilton, Massachusetts, Wilton, New Hampshire, where it's like
the boy had the dreams about the girl, and like every night he told her, or she told him to go fix her grave, and then like.
Right, or something's wrong with it, right? Something has been desecrated, and so
grave.
they can't find peace because of it, right? Like, that seems to be the theme.
But
those are ghostly legends. We think of those as the backstory. But why would a ghost be, if ghosts are real, blah, 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 okay, and we're looking for ghosts, not ghostly legends, why would a ghost ever be in the cemetery?
I don't know.
Right? Like, why would they return to the place where their body was buried, as opposed to where they lived, where it doesn't make sense. The Chipotle, like someplace that meant something to them, unless there's a backstory. Unless you have a story like the kids are all there together. It's the only place where they can be together. They died in different places. Like, this was the one place, but even that's kind of weak. But there are other ones, like you're saying, about the grave being desecrated, where they had to go back, like there was something wrong.
What story was that?
I can't remember. I think it was from the 13 Ghosts or whatever that book you had. Remember we did the episode? No? Or
13 shows.
Not buried the way that they were supposed to be or something like that. But to actually have just, hey, the ghost hangs out at the cemetery. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, which is crazy given what we do. That I'm not that hot on cemeteries. I mean, we went, other than Oak Ridge, we went years without going to a cemetery. Because
cemeteries are lame.
They're kind of all, and like you said at the beginning with the Oviedo story, they're kind of all the same, right? I'm finding more and more variety, which is why I'm tracking so many of them down. So what are your ideas? You can reach out to us. I'm not talking to you. You can reach out to us at 813-418-6822. Why do ghosts...
I'm so heartbroken.
If the backstory... If we take the backstory and put it aside for a sec, why would ghosts return to a cemetery? Like, why would they be drawn to that? And also, if you have a story of ghostly children, you can feel free to call us tonight and share that with us. Or... just feel free to contact us post-show, especially if you have a cemetery story and a ghost cemetery story that involves kids, where there's some kind of ritual, like playing hide and seek or doing something else to kind of get the kids to contact us or to contact the living.
Imagine there was a legend where you had to play leapfrog with them. That'd be pretty fun.
With my knees, it would be horrible.
Just like squatting down and like you can feel like the pressure on your back as they jump over. That'd be pretty cool.
You had mentioned earlier that you had gone to St. Augustine.
Leapfrog.
You can't play leapfrog?
No.
Why not?
Probably wouldn't be able to. Probably be the bottom.
But you're also 12 years old.
Probably be the bottom frog.
You're beautiful in your own way, hon. You went to St. Augustine like 2 years ago, right?
In February, yeah.
And that was just a class trip, or was that like for
that
something?
That was for the gifted kids in fourth and fifth grade.
Okay.
In fifth grade. 4th to 5th grade.
And when you went there, like you said, you were telling ghost stories. You obviously had a ghostly mindset going there because of who you are, what you do, who your dad is.
We were also going on a ghost tour. So.
Even though you were with mom and not me. Did everybody go on the ghost tour, or just you and mom? Everyone did?
Everyone. Just me and mom. What are you talking about? Everyone went. It was legally required. I'm just kidding.
Legally required.
Legally. That trip was so fun.
I am not a fan of St. Augustine. So I know
Tragic.
I know it. St. Augustine is the oldest city, the oldest continuously lived in city. It was where we first came here, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. It is a great historic town. There's a lot to go and see there. And yet I've always avoided it. If you follow the show, if you've listened to episodes, you know that I generally tend to avoid legends that happen in St. Augustine. I think it's totally cliche. I think it's one of those places where it's like
There was one
kind of
legend-
like a haunted Disney World. Like you go to St. Augustine to see ghosts, and so every place says that they're haunted.
I remember one of the legends of like the fort. I don't even remember what it was, but this guy like had like a severed head of an Indian or something, or like a Native American or something, and he had like a severed.
He posted it on the wall or something.
No, I don't know exactly what I remember exactly what happened, but like he had the head of the Native American, and he got like arrested for it because
He just had the head of a Native American.
He just had the head of a Native American. He just had it.
All right, I'm gonna have to research that a little bit just because I want to know the story.
It's like the fort. It was made of the little shells that were all crushed up together, and I can't remember the name of them because I really don't care.
Oh wow, that was a very tween moment. But there was one story that I came across which totally connects to tonight's idea.
Oh, I think I know what it is.
And you know what? I think I'm gonna hold off on that story
Why?
because I think we can do because we are running out of time, and I want to give this legend the time that it deserves. Or should I just push forward? What do you think?
Give it the time it deserves, man.
Yeah, she wants. Okay. Mainly
I
also.
don't know. Do what you want.
Mainly also because I want. So, I'll save that for next week. But I really want your ideas on whether or not you could take a legend trip too far. Can you do something during a legend trip? Now, we always try to come up with some kind of trigger. Something that feeds into the legend. So if the legend says, you honk your horn 3 times, we honk our horn 3 times. If the legend says, you go there at a certain time, and you put a piece of paper down, we do that. We went to Fort Clinch, we wrote love letters, because the person in the story was writing a love letter. When it comes to kids, is it right to play with them? Is it somehow exploiting them to go there and try to trigger something? Is it manipulation? Is it what do you think, Ella, in terms of like, do you think that it's the right thing to do or a proper thing to do? Is it okay? Am I going to burn in hell for going to these places and
Yes.
asking kids to play hide and seek with me, which
Yes.
sounds creepy anyway, but go ahead.
Yeah,
What do you think?
absolutely.
No, expound upon that.
Well, I don't think it's like going to hell kind of bad, but like maybe
Does it cross the line?
it might feel like morally wrong to some people.
Does it feel like that to you? Now, keep in mind, maybe it's a daytime, nighttime thing, because I had no qualms about us doing it when we went during the day, and even with you doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, while we were there. But there was just something on the way home that just didn't settle, didn't sit right with me.
Well, like I said, some people, I don't really like have like a set thing on it because obviously some people might be closer or like relate to them in a way, like how I felt obviously like during the Richardson thing because we're all children, but like you as an adult playing with this like 2-year-old kid, you can't relate to that, you know.
You know what I felt like when I did it? I felt like if you've ever seen the movie Contact, and you've actually made it all the way to the end of that movie, there's a scene where...
Alert?
No, this doesn't spoil the movie at all. And you'll never watch that movie. There's a scene, that's the very last scene, where Jodie Foster is talking to the kids. Now, I work with kids professionally, right? I'm a teacher. But I think I'm good with kids anyway, right? Like, I can get any kid to laugh, right? I felt like I was faking it. Like, Jodie Foster, if you've ever seen that, she goes like, that means there are a whole bunch of planets we've yet to find. Like, I felt, because I was going, like, okay, I'm going to, and I was being as genuine as possible because I wanted to engage whatever might be there. I didn't feel creepy. You seem to be implying that an older person. All right, so what do you mean then about an older person shouldn't be doing? Like, it's a different question.
An older person, like, not being able to relate to, like, or, like, yeah, like you said, having to fake, like, empathy or, not empathy, but, like, and to be like, okay, and what's 2 + 2? Very good, it's 5. Good job.
Yeah, like, being in education, I know some teachers who, when I hear them talking to kids, I'm like, that's not your normal voice. Like, why aren't you just talking to them? I don't think it's just that, though. It's really hard I felt like I was exploiting those kids in a way that I didn't feel at other Legend trips. And I'm not sure if it was because they were kids or maybe something actually reached out to me and kind of smacked me upside the head.
Shut up.
No, do you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know how ghosts might affect us, right? So if there's something there, maybe it put that little bug in my ear that, like, dude, this is freaking wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. Maybe something else within the cemetery kind of saying, leave these kids alone. But there is a fine line that we trail on, right? Like, I had jokingly said at Jacksonville Beach that to get the ghost, we should try to throw Deanna in the water and try to kill her. So that, whatever's there, if it's a lifeguard, they would try to save her. But are some of these things too much? When we cut the bark off the devil's tree to follow up on that legend, that was an obvious one,
that
right?
That was too much. You kind of doomed yourself with that one.
But I think, I think maybe should we do an episode like...
stupid things Dad has done?
Yeah, like the 5 legend trips we shouldn't have done that went over the line. I think that would be an interesting show. Like 5 things that we did on Tripping on Legends where it was like, dude, like you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that to try to get the activity. I sit here and I complain about paranormal TV shows who provoke, right? And even BuzzFeed Unsolved, how they kind of like jab, you know what I'm saying? Go, okay, you asshole, blah, 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 like to get things going. Is it the same kind of manipulation, the same kind of using to ask little kids to tap you on the shoulder, or to ask them to play? I think that would make a good episode. Mm-hmm. Off the top of your head, can you think of other stupid things that I've done or things that I've done where you would say, dude, that was over the line, too much? Everything she said. If you want to evaluate what you think we might have done that went over the line,
go to trippingonlegends.com.
Go to trippingonlegends.com to get in some of the old episodes. Yeah, no, go into the archives, wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe, go through, even just some of the names, you can tell what's going on with some of them. Go through the names, listen to some of the old episodes, get in touch with us on our social media to tell us where I was an asshole with what I chose to do to trip that legend or to spark that kind of the activity talked about in the legend. And you can get in contact on those social media platforms. Facebook is facebook.com/trippingonlegends. The Instagram is at Spooky Balzano. Spooky Tripping. And the Twitter is at Spooky Balzano. And if you want to follow our TikTok, you could search for the name. I don't even know how you find it. It's called Tripping on Legends. No, but it's Spooky Balzano though.
No, I think it's Tripping on Legends.
Go to Tripping on Legends on TikTok and follow. We'll be making more of those. I'm not gonna forward other people's ones or whatever stuff like that for now. But I am being
Tripping on Legend. This is his amazing video.
okay. We're not going to show it. We're not going to ask people to go and find it themselves.
Why? It's so wonderful.
Follow us. Follow what we're doing. Comment on us. Criticize us. That's everyone's homework. Anyone who's listening to this show,
Compliment us.
we'll have it be at least 2 weeks before we get into it. And I agree with Rita. It's all about intent. A lot of this is about intent. But there still may have been times where my intent, while pure, were still the actions of an asshole. That's going to be the title of the episode. Tripping on assholes.
Tripping on assholes.
And so, I'll wait a few weeks to see if people can kind of go through the archives and see where I went too far or something was too soon.
They can do the 3 C's: comment, criticize, and compliment.
And you can do that at all the places we just talked about.
Yeah, guys, every single one.
You ready to go to bed? Mm-hmm. You ready to get back to school again?
Yippee!
So, regardless of how much of a jerk you may be when you do it, here's hoping that all of your trips
are legendary. So says Neil Patrick Harris.
We decided not to talk about that. Have a wonderful evening.
How do I stop?